Infection movies are all the rage again. Probably something to do with the real world events we're experiencing. And the Spore, it isn't exactly doing anything different with its tale. That being said, it does have some strong performances, unnerving effects, and deep-rooted horror elements. It's just a shame that it can be quite boring at times. There are moments in this movie where I found myself almost drifting off to sleep, and I'm not one to fall asleep during a film, but there are moments where I was genuinely a little bit disgusted by the effects. I've always had an aversion, a distaste for body horror. Even though I can watch the movies that often left me feeling a little bit sick, a little bit grossed out, and The Spore has plenty of moments that did that to me.
The latest news brings the discovery of toxic spore plumes. State officials are hesitant to declare this an emergency until further investigation into the matter.
Written and directed by D.M. Cunningham, The Spore shares much in common with anthology horror movies, even though it isn't actually one. See, the tale is told from the perspective of different people, as this infection begins, spreads, and eventually dominates. Just different people with very different circumstances, but all part of a very small Michigan town. You see, unlike an anthology where you kind of have your wraparound story and an individual tales, the people are the tales. The wraparound story is the infection. The central theme of all the characters' story is the infection, with focus being on each survival plight, which is where the Spore immediately becomes exposed, as most of these characters lack any kind of actual character. It's no fault of the actors, as there are some pretty good to great performances here. Even more so, when you kind of know how little dialogue there actually is, a lot of these actors have to express fear, wonder, dismay, revulsion, all those emotions that come across in an environment that they're in here. They have to express that with just their faces, because often they're trying to avoid other people. In fact, a lot of the story developments actually come from like radio messages and broadcasts. You'll hear stuff in the background. Someone will be driving, the radio will be playing, kind of updating us on where the infection is now. It's just very hard to care about these characters' plights when so little is known about them. It is a problem in the movie overall. Hard to care about characters if you know bugger all about them. It is a notable problem that most can overlook, though, as the Spore really goes for a grim and dark stance with this infection story. There's nothing hopeful about this movie. There's nothing uplifting. Early on, it is clear this is something that cannot be controlled, and the rate at which it spreads is quite alarming. However, for me, and I think for a lot of people when they watch this movie, what's even more alarming is the effect it has on the human body. As I mentioned already, this is where the Spore excels. The effects in this movie are very impressive. Gruesome in a body horror kind of way.
This stuff grows faster than anything I've ever seen. Looked like a fungus growing from their skin. No one understands what's going on.
Whatever this is attacking us, it consumes the body quickly. It then spreads its spore through secreting dark mucus or blood.
That the infection has stages and affects bodies differently allows for some imaginative ideas. Props to those involved with the effects in this movie. If the idea of watching your body deteriorate or having a fungus grow from it and transform turns your stomach, as it does me, you're going to have some trouble with this movie. If you've seen this movie, I'm sure your mind is casting it back to a specific scene in a wood cabin that really will leave you feeling uncomfortable. But these monstrosities, they're rarely the actual danger though. Rather, it's the infection that constantly hangs heavy in the air. Later, we do get something more akin to a zombie film, but even then it's more implied, as you don't see much rather than out-and-out violence. The Spore goes for tension-based horror and nails a lot of what it is going for, even if some of its story beats and plot developments do drag on a bit. The question is, do they drag on enough to weigh it down? When it is slow, it feels really slow, and rarely does the pace pick up to anything but a canter. We'll warn you now, if you're after a fast-paced, snappy horror movie here, you're not going to in it. This is not going to get it here. It's all about slow builds. But good acting, a solid story, and, as said several times throughout, fantastic effects have it leaning towards at least for me, a movie I think is well worth checking out. The Spore. Check it out. Drop me some thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?